Hi, Tom Armbruster, former Foreign Service Officer. I was in Moscow as early as 1975 during the battle days of the Soviet Union and the Cold War, and most recently was Consul General in Vladivostok, Russia. You know, with Russia being in the news now as having been involved in the US elections, I think that we can say that the consequences are probably going to be long-term and have a lasting detrimental effect on our relationship. You know, Churchill said that Russia is a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma. And I have to admit, figuring out what Putin is up to interfering in the US election also leaves me scratching my head. We've certainly seen a wide range of US-Soviet, US-Russian relations over the years. We've had cooperation. Think back to World War II and the Lend-Lease program. The United States provided tanks, blankets, bullets to Russia, Soviet Union at that point, and together we really won the war. To quote Churchill again, World War II was won with American brawn, British brains, and Russian blood, and millions of Soviets did die during that war, probably underappreciated by the United States. In the 90s, I was nuclear affairs officer in Moscow, and we had a lot of cooperation. At that point, one of the premier programs was taking highly enriched uranium from Russian missiles, blending it down to low enriched uranium, and burning it in American nuclear plants. So this was a very strategic and a very profitable enterprise for the Russians. On our side, we were buying some national security. The problem is that in those days, although the Russians badly needed cash, they also needed, I think, some goodwill from the United States. And that was maybe the moment when there was a window for something like a Marshall Plan, when the US could have built schools, hospitals, roads, so that Russians could say, my kid was born in that American hospital, or the Americans built that road. So much of our assistance was really hidden from view from the average Russian citizen that I don't think we got the goodwill we got in Europe, for example, after World War II, when even a chocolate bar, to a German citizen was remembered for generations. Now we reach this point with Putin interfering in the American election, and I think it's probably the most complex and most difficult moment we've faced in many, many years. And I'm not really sure how the US is going to be able to respond effectively. I think what the United States needs to do now is work very closely with our allies in NATO, also with the Baltic states who are part of NATO, with the countries on Russia's periphery, and really try to get them back on track following international norms. I think it's going to take more than just the United States. Our credibility with Russia has never been extremely high. It's certainly low these days under Putin, given that he has all the levers of power in the media. So we're going to need to find strategic partners, maybe even reach out to China as well, but find ways to ameliorate Russia's behavior, keep them away from conflicts with countries like Georgia and the Baltics certainly, which would be a flashpoint given NATO. But it's going to be a very long road before we can repair the damage that's been done by this interference in US internal politics. There's another Russian proverb, and it goes «Очень трудно найти черную кошку в темной квартире, особенно когда ее нет». It's very hard to find a black cat in a dark apartment, especially when it's not there. And I think Putin has been looking for this black cat in a dark apartment and trying to blame the United States for every problem and trying to frame everything again as a zero-sum game. And I think it's the wrong game. It'd be a much better game to, again, try to cooperate, find ways to be partners together in all the international challenges that we have, drug trafficking, the environment. There are a lot of ways we could work together, but it's going to be a long road and a difficult road to get back to that kind of thing. Thanks very much.